Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes. Welcome to my next vlog slash discussion video. Sorry, it's not a dog walk talk today. Just me sitting here in my office. So I've been going through my journals and I thought I'd talk about journaling. Journaling, writing, you can even call it note-taking for some, self-discovery through journaling, and how that can help you on your own personal journey, whether it's a spiritual journey or an emotional journey or trying to just sort things out in your life. So I often recommend journaling and writing to my clients. Sometimes it comes up in like the astrology readings I post on YouTube or the weeklies and so on. But I really feel like journaling is a very helpful tool when we're trying to understand what is going on within ourselves. And it's like, what's going on in our heads, especially if there's a lot of anxiety and worry and stress. Like let's say you're stressing about, a situation in your family or something, or you're trying to understand a deep spiritual process that is going on. It's really helpful to get it out of here and into something physical. Because I think it's helpful to be able to hold something, to open something up, and read it, get it out of our heads so we can get that other perspective on it, rather than it just like mulling around in here and what is going on and, just feeling stuck on whatever this is that you're mulling over, trying to figure out or trying to understand. And it helps, in a way, slow down the process. I know most people, when you're going through some deep spiritual growth, personal journey, trying to understand something, that's going on in your life, or stress and anxiety, we kind of want to get through it quicker, like we want it to be done and over with. But to really learn from it, to understand it, to see the positive, the benefits in it, to grow from it, it helps to slow down the process. And again, putting it on paper, writing it out in a journal, whether it's a journal like this, or it looks something like this, or it's just some paper, really helps us to work with the process rather than just wanting to get over the process or out of it. It helps us to grow. It helps us to grow, to understand more about ourselves and the situation, if you're worrying about something, or why you worry, or to find actually solutions to problems or challenges in our lives as well, to slow it down, to put it in something external so we can then go back the next day, the next week, the next month, and sometimes even longer, and read what we wrote and get that different perspective and be like, oh, I see what's going on there now. I've been able to step back and read it, look at it from this different perspective, and gain some insight from it, or be like, oh, I see what the process is now. Or you'll read something you wrote and you'll be like, I wrote that, and it may mention something, and then you go and research it, you go and study it, you go listen to talks on YouTube about it, you read books about it, and that leads you on this path of self-discovery and understanding. So that's my little spiel about how I feel journaling and writing is so important. And especially like dream journals. I've had many dream journals. I don't have all the ones. So sometimes I come to points in life where I destroy the journals because I feel like I've gotten the lessons from them, I've learned from them, or I've rewritten what was in one to some other journal. So sometimes I do like a release ritual or ceremony to release some old journals, some old processes. But I do have quite a few of my dream journals, and it's really interesting to go back and read them and get that other perspective. Or it could be, some experiences in my life or something I've learned along the way gives me an understanding or even an answer to whatever I was confused about in the dream. So the dream world is not confined by our linear time. So you may get a dream that shows you something about, your personal subconscious, your personal unconscious, your subconscious, your psyche, that you won't understand until later, or it helps you understand something from a few years ago. Like the timing, it's not linear. So dream journals, I feel, are really insightful. I was going to say important, but it's more like it's insightful. It's really interesting to go back and reread them and go through them and get the clarity you need. And I feel like we'll be drawn to go back and reread them when it's time to understand something about a dream that we had, you know, a month, a year, 10 years ago. So I have a bunch of my journals here. I thought I'd just show you since I've been kind of going through my journals lately. And they're all sorts of different things. Some are actual journals. Some are just notebooks, old notebooks. I like to use old notebooks from way back when I was in school that I didn't use up. Some are from my language studies, and I take out those old pages, and I still have like this red one here. So I'll show you a few of my journals since I'm talking about that. This journal, actually a journal. This is the one I used for my, when I was taking the Carolyn Myss Sacred Contracts Archetypes consulting course, whatever it's called. I did that 5 years ago. I do go back and revisit, and I work through the archetypes again, because part of the process is to go back and rework it, see how you've worked through it. Most of this is full, and it's about time usually in the spring, because I took it in the spring. I believe it was 2014, so 5 years ago. I will revisit. So at least once a year, I revisit my own archetypal journey, see what I've learned, how I've grown, how I've not grown, what challenges I have. So this is an ongoing working journal that I have. This one, which is an old notebook, I'll show you some empty pages, just an old notebook from college, so from graduate school, well over 20 years ago. That one I'm using for my ongoing spiritual life coaching clients. So for them, sometimes I take notes because it's an ongoing thing. This journal is new. This is going to be my new gardening and herbalism notebook, because I am a herbal practitioner as well. So that's my new one. I will begin working in it this spring. I'm prepping the soil. I'm doing soil amendment. I'm about to start my new garden for the year. This big journal, this one, it's all full. This is all my notes, all my outlines for whatever online webinars I have taught in the past. So it gives me an outline for the online courses I'm creating. But it's not just that. It's like as I work through developing the courses, or I revisit what I've done, I journal about the experience. I take notes on it. I work to understand my process in teaching, in working with the material, with feedback I've gotten from the students. And I haven't taught an online webinar in a few years because I had a baby and I just don't have the time, but I would love to do that again. But I am creating my online courses slowly but surely. And then of course there's my dream journals. This is one from many years ago. I have some note tabs in there for dream series that I have that I'm working on. This is also a dream journal, all filled up. My current dream journal, well, it's just an old notebook. Another old notebook that I have that I'm using, that I'm filling up. But after I'm done with that one, I bought this as my next dream journal because I love the owl for the nighttime. So those are my dream journals, and I do go back and revisit. As you can see, this one is sort of with those tabs in there. It's something I'm working on with a dream series that's going on. Those are some of my dream journals. This is a very old journal, and kind of how I mentioned, like I'll take out pages when it's something I've either rewritten in other things, or it's a process that's done, that I feel is done, that I really have a good understanding on. I'll take the pages out and usually do a ritual burning to release that energy. Do it safely, of course, if you do that. And then of course, well, This is another journal I have. This is a journal of my spiritual counseling sessions that I receive as a client. And again, I will pull the pages out as energies pass. Sometimes they sit here for years. Sometimes it's like each new session I get, I usually get one with a friend of mine I've known for 13, 14 years, every 6 months. So it's a process through with that, and I journal about it. I write what insights come during the session, during the reading, and how things change and grow and so on. So I journal about those sessions. But this is getting very thin. I've worked through a lot of stuff in that one. And then there's, of course, 3 journals I've created. So my butterfly journal I created many years ago. It is available. This one, it is full of all sorts of journaling notes. I did do an online webinar for this, and I'll probably do an online course for it as well. It's a little trickier because it's better to have that interaction, to talk to people, to talk through the metamorphosis. But this is my butterfly journal, monthly contemplations for spiritual metamorphosis. I have done, this is, my journaling in here is highly Jungian. I'll say that, highly Jungian. Right now, the personal journaling I'm doing is my fine lines journal. I'm not writing it in here because I'm working on my online course for it, but I'm going through all my fine lines cards. I'll actually show you some. I did make a video when I first made these. So it's working with the fine line between the 2 words or terms, like gratitude versus indebtedness, heart-centered versus mind-centered, I am you versus you are me, imagination versus fantasy. Let's see. Nonconformist versus rebel, pushing through versus getting lost in. What do we have here? Some good ones. Well, they're all good. Vulnerability versus victimhood. So there's 44 of these. And as I'm creating the online course, it's a guided meditation course. And in my mind, it's like, oh, this should be pretty simple to create. But as I'm writing up the little prompt, and it's not that much, as I'm working through creating the prompts for these, it's triggering me to process through each of these fine lines. So I'm going through a deep process. So that is actually all journaled on my computer because I'm working on the course, creating the prompts and stuff on the computer. And I probably will then transfer them into this journal I created for it. Mostly blank pages because it's a journal. It just matches. And revisit the whole process myself, and I'll probably do my own online course with that. And then, of course, my next plan is to go through my own Oracle of the Fool. This is a guidebook and journal for my Oracle deck. So it has the prompt for each one and 10 journaling pages. So I'm actually going to go through and work through in depth my own little deck creations. And see how that goes. And then, you know, sometimes I just use paper. This pad of paper, it's mostly filled up, but it's actually like a very small lined, I think it's like a type of architecture paper. I'm not sure, but I used to always use this type of paper to take notes when I was in school because there were more lines and I took really good notes, which you can probably guess because I journal and I write. This pad is like all this stuff, different colors. I don't want to give stuff away right now, but this is the next tarot deck I'm working on. And so I rework it, I go through it again, I rework it, I go through it again. And my own experience with working it with it comes through. So it's almost like everything I do has, and it's kind of like how everyone is. We just need to see it this way. Everything we do in our lives is a reflection of ourselves in some way. Some things, you know, it's just like, okay, this is great. I don't know. I've created this. I'm good at that. And other things are like, wow, this is a really big challenge for me. This is difficult for me. Why is this hard? It's like working through, you know, my fine lines deck. I guess it hasn't really surprised me. I was going to say it surprised me, but it's been a deeper process than I imagined it would be, and some of the fine lines have been really challenging to work with, like especially this one, gratitude versus indebtedness. Like this is like, yes, we can, it's easily to develop a gratitude practice, but a lot of us, deeply ingrained in our psyches, we feel this sense of indebtedness to people when they do something nice. And doesn't mean, you know, withdraw away and not be kind in return, but we feel this sense of indebtedness, like we owe people things because they chose to be kind in some way. So it's I guess sort of surprised me. I guess I'll use that term. Surprised me how intense this process of just creating what I think in my mind is, oh, a simple guided meditation course to go along with the deck, how intense of a process it has been for me. And as I work through the energies of these fine lines, these terms, so it's helping me to put it out on paper. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk, ramble on, I don't know, ramble about journals and journaling and how helpful it can be and insightful to get stuff just out of your head onto paper. You know, it could be, you know, you can call it your diary, your daily entry at the end of the day. You can call it your book of shadows that talks about your processes and your personal rituals and your mantras and how they work for you. You know, whatever term you want to use for it. Your day planner to help organize your day and put in your reflections, your tarot journal to record your daily card or your daily spread or your weekly spread, and what experiences you had, what you learned from it, how it made you turn within, or what you experienced it as maybe a predictive tool. But it is helpful to like have something to hold and go back and read, and to see it from, you know, from an objective perspective. So it's in our head, it's subjective, it's us, but we get it out and it's like, oh, okay, I can look at this in a way outside of myself to get a clearer understanding of what's going on. So yeah, I guess it's just a little ramble about journaling, journals, how they can help, different ways you can journal. Some things will be more practical because, of course, you know, this big pad here of my tarot deck I'm working on, it is much more of a practical thing, but I always learn something about myself and the process of going through it while I'm working on it. So in itself, it is also a journal. Some can be highly, deeply psychological. Even though it's my butterfly journal, and I went through the journaling process, and I did it a few times on my blog, so you can actually go back. I didn't put all my entries on there, but you can go to my blog on peacockseyes.com and click on the butterfly journal category on the right hand side and go through the annual process twice or three times, maybe it's twice, that I went through it and logged it on the blog, some of the entries and my experiences. But this goes even deeper than that. It took off on all sorts of different tangents deep within the psyche. And again, you know, some again can be a little more practical, like my gardening and herbalism journal here. Much more practical and educational, but all of it really is educational, self-educational, learning about the self and life and what we do, why we do it, what we can learn from that. So I think I'll end it here. I feel like I'm just rambling about journaling. Hopefully you found some insight from this, or it inspires you to journal. You don't have to have so many journals like I do. It's just something big that I do. Just start with one. It could be a tarot journal for a daily card. It could be a weekly journal. It could be a journal specific for dreams, for specific for your family issues, specific for work issues, whatever it may be. But I guess the whole message of this video is that it's helpful to put something out of your head and onto paper so you can get that better perspective. Okay, that's my little journal ramble. If you got this far, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys back here soon.